Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to be hanging out with you today. We are going through a complete care guide, basically a step-by-step blueprint for mastering one of the most charming, versatile, and honestly sometimes misunderstood plants out there. I'm talking about Ficus pumila, better known as the creeping fig. So if you've ever wanted to bring this lush, climbing, kind of wild jungle vibe indoors, you are in the exact right place.
You know, plant expert Anastasia Remeslo really hit the nail on the head when she said, if you're looking for a plant that can literally climb the walls in the best way possible, let me introduce you to creeping fig. This little overachiever originally hails from East Asia, and what makes it truly special, like its real superpower, is how it uses these tiny, self-clinging aerial rootlets to grab onto almost any surface. It's just a natural-born climber that can totally transform a boring room into a living space. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap. We're going to meet the creeping fig, lock down those core care requirements, talk maintenance and propagation, troubleshoot a few common issues, and wrap up the whole shebang with some really creative display ideas. Section 1. Meet the creeping fig, the climbing overachiever. So, believe it or not, this delicate-looking trailing vine is actually a member of the Ficus family, meaning it is directly related to those massive statement trees like the fiddle-leaf fig. Crazy, right? But instead of growing into a rigid tree trunk, it just spreads, trails, and clings. And there's a massive difference between its juvenile and mature forms. When it's young, the leaves are tiny, just 1 to 2 inches, heart-shaped, and they grow on these thin, wiry stems. But in its mature form, the leaves get much larger, they turn thick and leathery, and the stems get incredibly woody. It even produces little fruiting figs. But here's the cool secret. Most indoor creeping figs just stay in that adorable, clinging juvenile form indefinitely. You'll rarely, if ever, see that woody, mature stage indoors, which, honestly, is exactly what most of us want anyway.
Section 2. Core Care Requirements, the Golden Rules.
All right, we are going into a bit of boot camp mode here, because getting these foundational elements right is absolutely crucial. It's the difference between a lush, thriving vine and a sad, crispy twig. So your number one motto, your golden rule, is simply this: keep it moist. Unlike a lot of trendy houseplants right now that want to dry out completely, the creeping fig literally despises being dry. It wants its soil evenly moist at all times. Think of like the texture of a wrung-out sponge. If you let it go bone dry, this plant will punish you with some incredibly dramatic, sudden leaf drop. Make it a habit to check that top half-inch of soil regularly.
Next up, we have to talk about this number right here, 50 to 80%. That is the ideal humidity range for a creeping fig. Now, to put that into perspective, your typical home environment usually hovers around 30 to 50%, and it gets even lower in the winter when your heater is running. Because this is a subtropical plant, if the air gets too dry, you are definitely going to see crispy brown leaf edges. So to hit that sweet spot, you might want to run a humidifier, maybe set up a pebble tray, or my personal favorite, grow it inside a terrarium where all that glorious humidity is naturally trapped.
Okay, let's rapid fire through the rest of the care stats. For light, go for medium to bright indirect. An east-facing window with that soft morning sun, absolute perfection. Just keep it away from harsh, direct sunlight or it'll scorch those thin leaves. Temperature-wise, keep it cozy, somewhere between 60 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and strictly avoid cold drafts below 55 degrees. For soil, a mix of 2 parts potting soil, 1 part perlite, and 1 part peat or cocoa coir will give you a great balance of moisture and drainage. Fertilize with a balanced liquid feed once a month, but only in the spring and summer. And finally, drainage holes in your pot, totally non-negotiable. Don't even try it without them.
Section 3. Maintenance and propagation. Pruning and multiplying.
So once you've nailed the daily care, how do you manage the long-term health of this plant? Well, you gotta prune fearlessly. Seriously, don't hold back. This guy grows incredibly fast, and aggressive pruning actually forces it to branch out and create this beautiful dense foliage, instead of just giving you long, stringy, bald vines. It bounces back super fast, but, and this is a big but, wear gloves. Just like all ficus plants, the creeping fig oozes a milky latex sap when you cut it, and that stuff can be incredibly irritating to your skin. So, glove up and then snip away.
And what do you do with all those cuttings you just took? You multiply your collection, of course. Let's walk through these super easy water propagation steps. Step 1, take a 3 to 5 inch cutting right below a node. Step 2, strip those leaves off the bottom inch or 2. Step 3, just pop those bare nodes into a jar of room temperature water. And step 4, wait about 1 to 3 weeks. Because this plant already naturally pushes out those little aerial roots we talked about, the propagation process is wonderfully fast and almost always successful.
Eventually, your plant is gonna need some new real estate.
Here are your repotting basics. Plan to repot every 1 to 2 years, ideally in the spring when the plant is actively waking up and growing. Choose a pot that's just a tiny bit larger than the current root ball. They actually don't mind being a little snug and root bound. And I really want to emphasize this last point. Never, ever put gravel at the bottom of the pot. I know you've heard that advice before, but it's an old gardening myth. It actually creates a perched water table, which just pushes soggy, wet soil right up against your roots. Just use good soil and a pot with drainage holes. That's all you need.
Section 4. Troubleshooting common issues. Decoding the leaves.
Okay, look, even the best plant parents run into trouble sometimes. It happens. So let's learn how to read your plant's distress signals. The crucial point here is knowing the exact difference between a thirsty plant and a drowning plant. On the underwatering side, you're going to see wilting, drooping, crispy leaf edges, really dramatic leaf drop, and kind of shriveled up leaves. On the overwatering side, it's totally different. Yellowing leaves, mushy stems right at the soil line, a really musty, swampy smell, and suddenly fungus gnats flying around. This is your instant diagnostic cheat sheet. Crispy and dropping leaves? Give it a drink. Yellow and mushy? Check that drainage immediately.
You also want to keep a close eye out for uninvited guests. There are 4 main pests that absolutely love hiding in this dense foliage. You've got spider mites. You'll spot their fine little webbing when the air is too dry. Mealybugs, which literally look like tiny white cotton balls stuck in the growth. Scale insects, which disguise themselves as tiny brown or tan bumps right on the stems. And aphids, clustering all over that fresh, tender new growth. If you spot any of these, don't panic. Just isolate the plant and treat it thoroughly with some insecticidal soap, neem oil, or even just a quick dab of rubbing alcohol for those mealybugs.
Section 5. Creative display ideas, styling your space.
Because of its unique creeping and trailing habit, this plant gives you styling options that regular upright houseplants just can't touch. You could train it up a wire frame or a trellis to create a literal indoor living wall. You can pop it in a macrame hanging basket and just let it cascade down like a gorgeous green waterfall. You can even shape it over wire-frame topiaries. But I really want to highlight the closed terrariums idea. Remember how we said this plant absolutely craves 50 to 80% humidity? A closed terrarium naturally provides that exact microclimate, making it practically foolproof to grow a creeping fig inside one. It's a match made in heaven.
Now, before you rush out to the nursery, I do need to practice some responsible plant parenting and share 2 quick cautions. First, the creeping fig is toxic to pets. The sap has calcium oxalate crystals in it, so you absolutely must keep it out of reach of curious dogs and cats. Second, those amazing little aerial roots that let it climb, yeah, they grip tight, like super tight. If you let this plant climb directly up your painted drywall, pulling it down later might literally peel the paint completely off. So definitely consider using a removable trellis, especially if you're renting.
And that brings us to the end of our complete care guide. So, I'm going to leave you with this. Will you build a cascading hanging basket or maybe a tiny terrarium? How will you display your new creeping fig? This plant is just so incredibly versatile. It's really up to your imagination. I hope this explainer leaves you feeling super confident and ready to tackle this amazing plant. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and happy planting!